Cruise news time. Well, we are 48 days from what could be the restart of cruising in the U.S. 48 days. Holy moly. But there's a lot of work to do. Let's talk about the cruise lines that are in play, and let's talk about what they got to do. Let's talk about it. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Lido Loca. I'm your host, Tony, here with the latest cruise news updates. Well, Sunday, May the 16th, 48 days until July the 3rd, 48 days to the potential restart of cruising from the U.S. Will it happen? Quickly though, May the 16th, tomorrow is May the 17th. Just a quick public service announcement. Tomorrow's tax day. Tax day's been different the last couple years because of the situation we've been in. And so yes, if you've not filed your taxes yet, you got until midnight tomorrow night. Make sure you get that in, or you file extension, or do something like that. And quickly, before we break down what's happening with the U.S. cruise restart, let me invite you to subscribe to this YouTube channel. If you'd like to stay up to date with everything that's going on in cruising, please consider subscribing with the notification bell on. Doesn't cost anything, helps us out. Thank you in advance. All right, so let's figure out where we're at when it comes to the U.S. cruise restart. A lot has happened over the last couple weeks. We've seen a lot of new cruise rules come out. We've seen a lot of companies saying a lot of different things. We've seen some companies canceling, but let's focus on the big players. What is going on with Carnival Cruise Line? They call themselves America's Cruise Line. What's going on with America's Cruise Line? Well, this is what they've done. They've cleared the board except for 4 cruise ships. They plan to sail out of Texas, and they plan to sail out of Florida. And if all things go well with the bill that's making its way through Congress, then they may sail from Seattle up to Alaska. But the very first date that's been targeted for Carnival is July the 3rd on the Carnival Vista out of Galveston, Texas. So let's use that as our key point. Now, when Carnival canceled all their cruises and left these cruise ships as the cruise ships that would start the cruising again from the United States, they didn't say this was for sure. This is just their plan. And they didn't give much information beyond that. And so it's kind of up to us to do the sleuthing to figure out what's going on when it comes to the restart of cruising. And several of you have asked, what's going on with the restart of cruising? What are the things that the cruise lines have to do to get going again? So that I can do. Let's work through this process. Now, let me pull up the chart. You know this chart. This is the 4 phases of the framework for conditional sailing. And the question is begged, where is Carnival when it comes to this process? Now, I do believe that we can say with some certainty that the Carnival Vista is through phase 1 and on to phase 2A. Phase 1, basically, if you went to that old chart that we looked at a lot, which ships were green, which ships were yellow, which ships were red, the Carnival Vista, green, satisfying what they need to satisfy for phase 1. Now, if we jump over to phase 2A, this is where Carnival has to reach out to local port authorities and make sure that they have agreements in place around health protocols, around what to do in case there is an outbreak. There's nowhere to track that. I have looked high and low, and I cannot determine whether or not those agreements are in place. Not only for Carnival or anyone else. I haven't seen any cruise line come out and announce we are through phase 2A, that we have these agreements in place, that we're ready to go on to phase 2B. So that's a problem. It's only 48 days until Galveston. So okay, but let's continue. If they are through phase 2A, hopefully, if they have these agreements in place, then the next thing they have to do is they have to go through phase 2B, which is the simulated voyages section, the test sailing, as it were. And this is done with volunteers. This is not done with paying passengers. And there's 2 paths. There is a path that if Carnival can attest that 98% of their crew members are vaccinated and 95% of their passengers are vaccinated, then they can skip the actual test voyage and they can go and apply for the conditional sailing certificate. That is phase 3. But we haven't heard specifically whether or not they're doing that, or whether or not they're not doing that and they're doing the simulated sailing with volunteers. I would kind of think that if a cruise line had applied to do a simulated sailing with volunteers, that maybe the CDC might be tracking that in the same way they track the cruise ships in phase 1. But I'm not finding anything like that. And again, I haven't heard anything publicly announced from Carnival that they have applied for a simulated sailing. So that's not good either. And here's a key thing to note about the simulated or test sailings. They have to happen from the United States. So some people are saying, well, there's cruises that are going on other places, so surely that means they're meeting the simulated sailing requirement. No. These cruises have to go from the United States. There's a whole bunch of things that they have to go through. They could be happening, and this just might not be public knowledge. The CDC might not be publishing it. Carnival might not be talking about it. It may just be the behind-the-scenes workings that once we arrive at July the 3rd, then we will be at paying passengers. But let's assume for now that this is going on, because it really does need to be going on right now. Let's assume we're getting through the simulated sailing process. Once all that is done, Carnival will go to phase 3, where they will apply for a conditional sailing certificate. And if it is approved, then they go to phase 4, where they can actually have paying passengers. We assume that phase 4 will kick off on July the 3rd in Galveston on the Carnival Vista. Now, keep in mind that when these restricted voyages happen in phase 4, they will be following all of the guidelines in the handbook that we've been talking about. And so that's what we're trying to get to. We're trying to get to the restart of cruising in the United States, and really Carnival right now kind of leading the way, indicating that they may cruise in July. Now, the other big player in the space, Royal Caribbean, they've looked at a lot of the guidance that have come out. They've put statements out that they think they can work the guidance, that it's favorable, but they have not come out and made any determination on their July cruises. And so they haven't done what Carnival's done. They haven't cleared the board. They haven't said that we still think that these cruises will go, but all of their cruises are still live for July of 2021. But they're in the same ship. They're in the same ship. They have to go through these phases. So them's the facts. Now, what are we to conclude from what we know? Really two narratives. The first narrative is there's a whole lot of stuff going on that we don't know about. Port agreements are being signed. Applications for test sailings are being submitted. Test sailings are happening. Everything's going on behind the scenes, and nobody knows about it. I mean, at least nobody's talking about it. That's one thing that we can, think. And then the other thing that we can think is that, well, it's just not going to happen in July. So which path are we going down? Two roads diverged in a wood. Which road are you? Leave a comment below. Thank you so much for watching the show today. Please hit the like button, or I'm putting pineapple on your pizza. How about that? It's Tony with Lido Loca, and until the next time, we'll see you on the Lido. Bye.